Let's get reaction now to these new regulations with the head of presidency for the National E-Hailing Federation of South Africa, Vhatuka Mbelengwa. Good morning. Welcome to Newzroom Afrika.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Well, we can welcome these regulations, Vhatuka, but we know that regulations mean nothing if drivers are still being attacked and killed. What is your immediate reaction to Minister Creesy's announcement of new e-hailing regulations?
Look, we think that we welcome that the dialogue of regulation is happening. But thus far, what we are reading seems to lack a sense of being pragmatic. Now, when I say being pragmatic, when we talk about, example, the panic button, that's a lot of infrastructure, that's a lot of money, and we're talking about an industry of which participants have not been making any money. When you then also then say you're going to offer hefty fines, I don't know anybody in e-hailing that has made 100,000 Rand in the past 3 years collectively, and you're then gonna then give law enforcement the ability to impound and arrest people and enforce these heavy fines that we can't afford. It lacks pragmatic approach, you understand? And we're just gonna find more people in jail because we can't afford that 200,000 Rand. And as government, I hope they are also then appreciating that they have been failing in deploying an effective permitting regime. So it's all good and well that you want to then enforce these permitting regime and you want an e-hailing permit, but you must make sure that the process is pragmatic. But again, we then say we need to elevate the dialogue and we need to build a bigger vision as transport collectively and appreciate that technology is going to continue to disrupt our industry. And we then need to begin to embrace it so we can therefore guide and determine the pace at which these disruptions happen. And we don't let ourselves continue being undermined by global companies that somehow have the ability to show up and operate ungoverned, unregulated, without account, although we've got a government in place that has promised to protect us.
Now, there's been ongoing tension between traditional taxi operators and e-hailing services. Will these regulations help reduce this conflict, do you think, or could they make things worse?
Thus far, look, we're still reading them, but we're not picking up enough of a sense of clearly defined operations, which will then aid in managing the relationship on the ground between each respective mode. This is what we talk about when we say we need to build an ecosystem. And in the absence of that, we're going to see more violent clashes. Because everybody feels as though they are the custodians and it's a point A, this is our route, this is our region. But what technology has done is that it's made every road a potential route. It's made every home a potential pickup point. It's made every business a potential pickup point. And therefore, we need to then use technology so that everybody's access to public transportation is increased. So participation can be more relevant. And we need more pragmatic approaches in that manner.
And now the taxi industry often denies responsibility for violence, and yet your members continue to be targeted. Who's really behind these attacks, and why do we never see convictions?
Look, I think we keep treating the symptoms and not the source. And the source here is an unregulated environment, because then we've got criminality at play. We've got other violent people at play. We've got illegal participants at play who don't have any permits. They're just showing up with their vehicles and claiming to be e-hailing because there isn't a clearly defined modus. We need to treat the source, and then this will then ensure that all this violence is eradicated. These are pure symptoms, and the symptoms in themselves are very bad. I mean, people are being burnt in their vehicles. How much more worse can it get? But the reality of it is that we need to take a position as government and as a country, and we need to take a societal determination to ensure that we uplift transportation, and give drivers a better start.
Sure.
And this is our position as NEPSA and our determination.
Now, with that said, law enforcement deployment in hotspots has been promised. Is law enforcement the right approach to solving industry disputes?
I think the point of being pragmatic and the point of safety is at the point of inception. And when we say everybody must be vetted, who's the custodian who's responsible for that? Because the vetting has been happening, security, criminal background checks have been happening, but criminals keep making their way onto the platform because the apps are independently doing it. So when government says everybody must then participate and do this, who is therefore the responsible custodian for that?
That's a big question. So what specific changes would you like to see, Vhatuka, in the final version of these regulations?
We'd like to actually see right now immediately increased participation. Above all else, we want to see more of us contributing to this dialogue. As NEPSA, we've written to the minister, we've asked for more participation, and we have not been responded to. And we are concerned that this process is going to be rushed and we're going to take the wrong policy position and find ourselves with a compromised industry.
Now, if these regulations don't deliver results, what will your federation actually do to protect your members?
Look, as a federation, we are with intent moving to continue developing solutions that will then pragmatize the industry for our people. We're introducing more language. We want to develop our people more in the more business-aligned language because the employment environment has changed. The gig economy has disrupted everything. And we really need to adopt new language for the day so that it's more pragmatic and more, and it must apply to where we're going. And it must apply to the kind of tech disruptions that we can expect. You know, on a global perspective, you're seeing the technology developing at a much more rapid pace. And we need to expect the same for our country. It's coming. So we need to prepare ourselves and we need to look ahead. And some of the recommendations and the framework that the chairperson is recommending is regressive. You know, we can't go back in time. We need to look ahead and appreciate that technology is diversifying the industry. We just need to control the rate at which it's being diversified and put a clamp and put controls on Uber and Bolt. We want to hear more fines on how much they're going to fine Uber and Bolt. I'm looking forward to the minister saying, we're going to fine Uber and Bolt 100 million respectively for incorrectly and deploying this technology in a manner that's undermining our country. You know, these tech disruptions are a global phenomenon, and our traditional minibus taxi industry we haven't appreciated the impact on them. And the lack of us being able to appreciate that is resulting in these expressions of violence. We need to appreciate the impact of the global tech disruption on them as well. So we can therefore take a decision as an industry and give direction holistically.